Hey, what's going on, guys? Welcome back to the channel. So today we're just going to sit here and talk about a few things. So my YouTube channel has very much, to me, been about the gear before anything else. I feel like YouTube has kind of been saturated with people that just want to be personalities and spend more time talking and joking and whatnot than actually investigating the gear and trying to give you guys informed purchase decisions. For me, my priority will always be showing exactly what gear sounds like from the perspective of a guitar player first. I mean, I'm not doing a whole bunch of post-editing, and I'm not amazing at mixing or anything like that. I'm just here to show you, like, hey, you mic up a cab or you run it through IRs, this is what that piece of gear sounds like, and this is what it sounds like next to some other things. That's just me. But that said, in those few videos where I tend to have a whole bunch to say, those tend to be the videos that get watched the most in terms of how long folks stay on the video and actually watching it. So hey, we're gonna try something new today. Now, don't get me wrong, this isn't me saying that, oh, my opinions are more valuable than anybody else's. I'm just a dude. But that said, I am a dude who plays guitar fairly decently, I think, and has had more experience with amps and pedals than most people will unfortunately be able to. So with all that said, I do want to just kind of talk to you guys about a couple of things. So this can potentially turn into like a question and answer series if you guys want to. If that's something that you'd like to see, I'd love to see any questions that you guys have for me that you'd like to talk about or would like to have me answer down in the comments. We'll see how that goes. But anyway, today we are going to kind of respond to a few, not directly, but kind of in general about some comments that I've received recently. And the first one of those, lessons. So I just want to kind of talk about lessons real quick. Someone asked if I had taken lessons. And the answer to that is yes and no. So for someone who's been playing guitar for as long as I have, it's been what? I don't want to count right now, somewhere between 12 and 14 years of my life I've been playing guitar. Most people who've been playing guitar for that long, yeah, you're going to at some point run into a situation where you're taking a lesson from somebody in some way, shape, form, or fashion. For me, the one that stands out is the fact that, yeah, I took a guitar class as an elective in college. But by that point, I had already been playing for about 7 or 8 years, and I was considered to be, by my teacher, to be an intermediate player, you know? And that said, my teacher was like a really great jazz player and whatnot. And y'all know me, that's not really what I'm into, but I'm also a believer that all of us as players can learn something from pretty much everybody. So I did pick up a few like cool things in that class. And I think he picked up a few cool things for me, which is also, you know, pretty cool. But that said, my primary method of learning guitar was 100% through YouTube. So I don't know how I got into it. I think one day I randomly searched for the song Technical Difficulties on YouTube. I don't know how it managed to happen, but I ended up on the video for Technical Difficulties by Paul Gilbert, and I was blown away. Like, I didn't realize that guitar could be played like that. It was that video and the video Insanely Amazing Guitar Solo, which has to have like hundreds of millions of views by now, if not more. Those were my first introductions into seeing like the crazy stuff that people could do on guitar. I was like, man, I want to do that. Obviously, I never quite, I got nowhere near that level. But looking up things like Paul Gilbert guitar lesson and all that led me to finding other people's guitar lessons. Particularly the ones that I remember for sure me learning a lot from. And I never like sat down and mastered everything that any one of them were talking about, but I conglomerated all of those things into what I am today. Those things were the Paul Gilbert guitar lessons. Vinnie Moore has what I consider to be one of the best scale-based lessons on YouTube, and Marty Friedman. So Marty Friedman has always been one of my favorite guitar players. He probably is my favorite lead guitar player because he has all the flash and speed and stuff and all that. But what I think he has better than anybody else is his phrasing and his bends and stuff. It just sounds, whenever you hear Marty Friedman play, you 100% know it's Marty Friedman. I think that's like the coolest thing. Oh, and John Petrucci's Rock Discipline. I definitely could never sit 100% through Rock Discipline, but there are some amazing, amazing exercises and just ideas in that series. I think every guitar player that cares to get better should take a look at it. But yeah, the main things that I learned from those lessons were how they applied scales. I generally didn't even learn scales from those lessons. I bought a book called The Guitar Grimoire that had like pretty much every scale that I'd ever heard of, plus a whole bunch more laid out in a pretty easy to learn format. So like even now, a lot of people start off learning the pentatonic scale. And with good reason. You can do a whole lot with that. And there's a whole bunch of music that's just based around that. But I know the pentatonic scale, but mainly I just know that first position of the pentatonic scale. So like you can... See, I don't know it. There's 5 positions, each starting on one of the different notes. I don't know it, like I said. But yeah, and a lot of people actually start there. They just learn all the positions of the pentatonic box, and then they can start soloing from there. And that's a great way to do it. For me, partially because of those lesson videos I was talking about, where it was people doing a whole bunch of like the neoclassical like shredding and stuff, where they more so used the major and minor scales, that's where I focused my attention, and that's where I really learned. And for me, the Guitar Grimoire was what I used to do that. But you can also find just scale positions online, I'm sure. Yeah, all that stuff. And then from there, I pretty much started utilizing backtracks and everything and just starting to try and improvise and solo over the backing tracks. And then one day, when I started to play with other people, I realized nobody really wants to just hear you, you know, try and jam a solo out for the whole time. Music is typically about riff writing and songwriting. But luckily for me, a lot of that stuff that I learned when I was trying to be the next Paul Gilbert or whatever, that stuff carried over into riff writing. Which for me really manifested itself when I discovered Monuments and John Brown. I mean, Megadeth was my favorite band for a long time. And I learned a lot of their riffs and I loved a lot of their riffs. But at the same time, I wasn't thinking about writing riffs a whole bunch until I was until I discovered John Brown and Monuments. And I was just blown away by it. I think the biggest thing that John Brown got me thinking about was doing non-musical things on the guitar. Like the scratches and all that stuff. That's a John Brown riff, but where have I implemented stuff like that in my own music? That's not a good example. There we go. And yeah, so just finding those little spaces where you can fill in with like a rhythmic scratch or something, to me that helps a whole lot with songwriting. But we'll talk about songwriting another time. In terms of me doing lessons on this channel, I 100% totally do not have time to do that right now, unfortunately. But it's something I have been wanting to do. And I've been playing with this idea of giving Denise lessons and recording those for you guys to experience as well. I feel like that's going to happen one day, but probably not in the near future with the stuff I have going on right now. Topic number 2. Pieces of gear that I feel like every guitar player, pretty much every guitar player should own. The first thing that comes to my mind is either a Line 6 HX Stomp or a Line 6 Pod Go. They're just, value-wise, I can't think of anything that I think covers more ground and just lets you do more than with something like that. So for me, one of my first important pieces of gear that I can remember was a Digitech RP 355, I think. And that was cool because it had, you know, a tuner. That's important for somebody to start off with. A drum machine, a looper. That was a huge deal for me. And then it had all these amp models and effects and everything. And for me, it was cool because it let me start to understand what these effects were. Like what they actually sounded like chorus, reverb, tremolo. Obviously, I don't use a lot of that stuff nowadays, but it was super cool and fun to just find sounds and stuff when I was first starting to play. And to me, that's very important. Just being motivated to pick up a guitar and have fun while you're just messing around, that's going to be a huge part of you developing competence on your instrument, because you're just enjoying playing with it. Now, to me, nowadays, that, like the HX Stomp or the Pod Go, can fill those exact same roles, except for the drum machine. Doesn't have that. But just in terms of playing with sounds and everything, it's an awesome place to get started. And then not only that, the tones that you can get out of the Helix series stuff, which the Pod Go is in terms of the amp simulation, it's great. Like, that stuff is still 100% useful to me today. I wouldn't say that I generally get my best tones out of it, but 100% I would play a show with it. I would record it for a song. It's top quality stuff at the end of the day. And the fact that it's priced, the fact that it's that good and the price you can get it at, and it offers that much stuff, is just a no-brainer. Not to mention the fact you can use them for recording interfaces. I believe you can on the Pod Go. Double check on that if you're gonna go buy one based off this video. But the fact you can use them to record yourself and start to, you know, write songs and everything, that's awesome. So yeah, 100%. The first thing that comes to mind in terms of something that every guitar player should own is the Line 6 series stuff. The next thing that comes to my mind is not as, I don't feel as strongly about, but I do think that it's pretty awesome, is an agile guitar. Something for Rondo Music. The features on those guitars at their price point is daggone near unbeatable. I remember, like, before I had really bought any of the guitars that I, like, really truly wanted, I was always curious about, the headless thing, or fan frets. Even for a long time, I was just curious about having a guitar that had humbuckers, because I had a little Strat copy that just had single coils. And these were all things that interested me. Nowadays, the fact Agile has things that cover pretty much all of that range at very, very good prices. And personally, I've never had a bad experience buying anything from Agile. Some of my favorite guitars have been Agile guitars, although now that I've upgraded, I don't own any Agile guitars anymore. I miss both of the ones that I had, and I would say that they've been better than a couple of the more expensive guitars that I've had. So yeah, for those in the market for guitars, I definitely recommend you check out rondomusic.com and check out some of the Agile stuff. And finally for today, kind of back talking about the HX Stomp stuff, I want to talk about people buying and selling presets. So I'm talking about some people, usually more prolific guitar players and everything, they sell literally their settings on an Axe-Fx or the HX Stomp, something like that. I kind of understand people selling Kemper packs, because a Kemper profile is literally them taking a copy of their amp, and that's that specific amp. I kind of understand people buying and selling that. But in terms of buying a guitar player's settings on an Axe-Fx or a Stomp or anything like that, I'm not, don't get me wrong, I'm not going to tell anybody how to spend their money. I'm not going to knock anybody's hustle. If that's what people are doing and is making money for them, great. However, my issue with it is for those people who, I see it all the time because I'm in the Line 6 Helix groups. I'll see somebody like, I bought this Helix and I think I'm about to sell it because it doesn't sound good for metal. And whenever I see something like that, I instantly think that they don't have it, they have something set up wrong. Because literally, I was doing it today. I was about to make a video comparing the HX Stomp and the Rev G20, because the HX Stomp just added the Rev Purple channel. If y'all do really want to see that, let me know that in the comment section. But literally, I had nothing but the amp model of the Rev. That's all that the Helix was doing, running into a cab, and it sounded great. Buying someone's settings who has taken the time to tweak it and get it to what sounds the best to their ears is almost certainly not going to make you go from disliking the sound of a unit to really, really liking the sound of your unit. At the end of the day, it's far more valuable to me for you to sit there and kind of just play with the basic settings of the modeler. Because 9 times out of 10, if you have a drive, a gate, an amp, and a cab sim, and then just kind of play around with the settings in there, you're going to get to a good sound eventually. And it, honestly, oftentimes it doesn't take very long if it's a good piece of gear. Like back in the day on like the the Line 6 Pod HD that I had, yeah, that took some time. Largely because the cab simulation was so bad. But nowadays, stuff is so good. If you don't like the sounds, if your modeler is set up correctly and you don't like the sounds that you're getting, 9 times out of 10, buying someone else's preset is not going to do that for you. And that is just my warning to like beginner modelers out there. But yeah, that's my little spiel for today. If you guys enjoyed this video, please give me a thumbs up and drop a comment down there and let's talk about it. And like I said, if y'all do want this to become a FAQ series, drop me down some questions and we can see what we can do about that. But yeah, you guys take care.